Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another fabulous Eripmn event. Everyone is looking good. Thank you for being here. On today's agenda, we're going to work through a couple of things. We'll start off with the fireside chat. I'll introduce Sean here in a second. We're going to move from that to a few testimonials and then spend the evening networking and mingling like we normally do. Thank you for joining us today in this fireside chat. I am Jonathan. I'm thrilled to welcome Sean Carnite, who's had an impeccable career journey and is currently leading incredible work at Deloitte. I'll turn it over to Sean for just a brief background of yourself. No. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, everybody. I think that
it's I love hearing kind of questions and understanding where you guys are coming from. Also give a bit of perspective on where my kind of career journey's gone, and if I can impart some knowledge, that's a win for me. But I think for what I want to achieve here today is just make sure you guys feel like you can understand different perspectives, and so that's one thing that I want to come away with this. Just maybe a quick introduction of myself. So I grew up. I grew up in Peterborough, which was just outside of Toronto. And so I went to U of T. I did business and technology at U of T, and then from there I managed to get a co-op, and I worked at IBM. I did 9 years at IBM, and then sort of took a bit of a winding journey from that to where I'm at today, which is a partner at Deloitte and leading our SAP practice. So I lead our SAP practice for all of Ontario, and then play a pretty large role across 2 major accounts in Canada.
Thank you, Sean. We're diving into some powerful themes today. Hopefully you guys can hear me in the back. Yes? Good. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about AI and automation and reshaping our world, what it takes to thrive in large organizations, and we're going to talk a little about building meaningful and really genuine relationships. So kind of diving right into it, Sean, I'll get us kind of warmed up a little bit and kind of with some easy questions. And since one of the themes this evening, I should say, is career advancement, can you tell us kind of one of the myths about career growth? And what do you kind of think is kind of the biggest myth in your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will say just work hard and you'll get to go where you want to go, and that is a big myth. I mean, so you always have to work hard, but it's a lot more than that. So for me, it's you need to be able to understand sort of the landscape you work within. Obviously the work that you do, but also who are the kind of key individuals to build relationships with, which we'll talk about through the session today. But to me, it's about, you'll hear work smart in some places. I think because of the likes of AI and the likes of where the expectations are for, I'm giving you a consulting perspective. It's pretty impressive how they expect you to do a lot more with a lot less people. And so, when you do work hard, it's got to be about how are you leveraging different tools, and we'll talk about AI specifically to make yourself a little bit more efficient. And so working hard is not going to necessarily make you successful. If that were the case, there'd be a lot of millionaires in the world. We'll do a pass.
So Sean, thank you. Couldn't be more truer than that. But if you could automate one part of your job, what would that be?
So there's a lot of things that happen on a day-to-day basis when you're in consulting and a partner in a consulting firm. There's a lot of emails that I actually do automate today with ChatGPT, or we have our own tool, and everything we do in Deloitte's branded with a D, so it's Gen D. But that's one thing. The other thing is, when you have a lot of internal work, and for me, anything that's not client touching is something that's not driving value. And so if I can get rid of a whole bunch of tasks that allow me to get either closer to my client or closer to my team, then that's where I aim to be more automated. And so some of that's going to be emails, some of it's expenses, some of it's booking travel, things like that. But I do have an assistant that helps me, but I think there's a world where we're going to probably evolve to a point where assistants like the ones that I work with, unfortunately, will probably be replaced by AI type tools. And so we need to be aware of that as well.
Yep. Calls, right? If we could automate some of the calls that we have on a daily basis, it'd be awesome if we could create avatars of ourselves and have them attend our meetings on our behalf sometimes, but it's aspirational. So we started off with automation, we'll kind of jump right into it. Really we talked a little bit about impacts on the workforce and how we can prepare ourselves. So really question to you, Sean, is how do you see AI transforming the way we work moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, AI is, I think it's probably bigger than the internet. I think this is the biggest technological advancement we're probably going to see in a long time. We're seeing it from a delivery perspective in programs. We're seeing it also from an end user perspective in clients. And so there's two parts to this answer. One is we need to expedite the way that we implement projects. So I don't know, maybe we'll put a hand up. Does anybody know what SAP is in the room? Okay, we got a few. So we implement complex SAP systems and complex programs. And what they do is they're effectively kind of used as a tool to manage transformation within organizations. And so the life cycle of a project has a number of different tasks. One's going to be documentation, one's going to be configuration, there's code building and things like that. We're actually taking, and we've invested heavily, so that we can automate a pretty significant chunk of that entire life cycle of the program. And whether it's Deloitte, Accenture, IBM, whoever, they're all doing that. And why that's important is because it actually changes the workforce. It changes the workforce drastically, because before, if it took 20 people to do a job, now you've got 10 or less. And so that's a pretty big component here. The other one I'd say is just taking it to more of an end user perspective. When you think about AP clerks, AR, even purchasing, things like that, these tools are actually going to be then basically doing those jobs as well. So we're starting to see through some pretty significant programs and companies in Canada that the SG&A expense, which is a large part of that is salary, is actually being impacted heavily. And so we're starting to see people saying we need to do more with technology and tools than we are with the teams we have. So I think we are at a point where I read something the other day that Accenture had said that they're cutting workforce, but they're cutting the workforce for people that can't adapt to leverage AI. So it's not about they want to get rid of all these people. It's about you need to be able to learn how to work differently. And it is a pretty big mind shift. And so this is the thing where I would encourage everyone here that if you're not using Gen AI tools in some shape or form today, start tonight. I mean, this is one of those things that is going to be a massive game changer for everybody, and myself included.
Thank you, Sean. I couldn't agree more, because I came across that same article with Accenture, and it was very interesting to me for the same reason. And it's not because of this kind of conception that AI is going to replace our jobs. It's actually a different kind of paradigm, right? Which is, how do we use tech to be a little bit more efficient? So couldn't agree to your point around embracing it, using it, and it starts with kind of the little things from a day-to-day standpoint. You don't have to be a tech nerd or to kind of figure it out, right? So couldn't resonate more. Just kind of building off that, Sean, what industries would you say are going to be impacted by these changes, or even elevated, I should say, from your perspective?
Yeah, so there's interesting spectrum on how that's working today. I mean, I'll start sort of at the grassroots manufacturing side of things, right? Where you've got more automation happening with equipment. So whether it's shop floor, whether it's a pallet jack, or it's it's a mixing machine or things like that in terms of manufacturing. But that's the kind of hardware automation piece of it. But then there's also the piece that is going to say, how do I get a little bit more efficient in reporting? And so if the hardware is going to drive out a bunch of the reports, you think about preventative maintenance, it becomes predictive maintenance, and that's where AI is going to make a pretty big impact on sort of manufacturing industry. But then if I go and think about some ones that are typical laggards, I'd say, which are like lawyers, doctors, and real estate. Those three types of industries, right? I mean, healthcare has also traditionally always been something that's been a bit of a laggard around technology, but that's starting to accelerate as well. And I think we're starting to see a pretty big different play around, where doctors get burdened by, they obviously have to see lots of patients, but if they can reduce the time to spend with each patient, then we can actually put people through the healthcare industry a lot faster. And also, not only just faster, but with better ability to diagnose. And so the healthcare space is a big one. Lawyers are protected kind of in a way with the bar, but that's starting to change too. And so, there's obviously stories out there where they had Gen AI computer actually go to court and litigate a case. And I think that's going to be starting to become more prevalent as well. But the underlying thing in every one of these things is you still need someone to do critical thinking, and you still need someone to validate what's coming out. And so as much as we're going to get more efficient, there's still a level of trust that's not there. And so people will always have to be involved in the process to some level. And so it's important for us to make sure that when we're doing work, we're always critically thinking, and we're always kind of questioning, the output and making sure that you can actually explain it. Because they also did some studies recently where people were only using ChatGPT to do, writing, and they weren't developing parts of their brain the right way. So as much as there's a lot of different things happening out there, we also have to understand where the good and the bad is.
That's great. What about trades, Sean? What do you think about trades in terms of
So trade's an interesting one. My brother is a trades person, so he feels like he's impervious to this. But I also have seen robots putting up drywall. So I think that there is things where it is going to come, and there's things that'll get impacted. But the touch and feel, when you think of an electrician, you think about plumbing, you think about trades that really need to get into the weeds of things. It's going to be tough to replace that very quickly. So I think we got a little bit of a runway there.
Thank you. Couldn't agree more. So conclusion being, don't be surprised if your plumber shows up with a sidekick like Pi GPT or something.
That's it.
Or something similar. So and then kind of just building off kind of what we touched on earlier, Sean, in terms of kind of human connection and kind of how AI is going to shape the workforce. How do organizations kind of maintain that human connection, right? What's the balance of making sure that that's always present?
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier, right? Where companies are forcing people into the office, and so forcing may be the wrong term. Maybe that's too harsh, but yeah. But we are asking our teams to come in and really maintain that personal connection, and so I still am a firm believer that businesses happen because people do business with people, and as much as you've got text messaging and you've got Gen AI and you've got all these tools, what that should actually do is help you better understand the situation so that you can connect better with the person. And I think that's what you need to take away is that, my wife jokes that I'm like a stalker because when I go to sell things, I get to know, where the network is, and I understand sort of where the relationships are within companies. And so I'm using those tools to be able to better understand and better drive conversation to create levels of trust. And that's ultimately what you need to get to.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I think just kind of wrapping up this section, we're going to see AI transform every industry. Yes, right. We're going to see some type of roles that are going to be redundant, and it's part of the kind of evolution of this. We're going to see. Are we going to see all AI replace human interactions? To kind of Sean's point, absolutely not. And there's been kind of precedence to this, right? I mean, and I just kind of mentioned I'm in the banking industry, Sean, and back in the 90s, we introduced virtual banking, and this was really remote banking and calling in to talk to someone for your banking needs. And we thought this was revolutionary. It's going to change all the way that we deal with branches, and we're going to be able to kind of wind down our branches because everything's going to move virtually. 2000s, we introduced digital banking, state of the art. It's going to move to digital. We're going to rethink of how we track our branch strategy. 2000s, we went into mobile banking, same thing. Today, there's still 50% of the clients who still go into a branch and walk into a branch to do a basic deposit, right? So it's thinking about AI and tech as an enabler, to your point, and it's so critical. This is a topic that's fascinating. We could spend hours and days talking about. We're going to move us to kind of the next section, which is really about career growth and how you can thrive in large organizations. So from your perspective, Sean, you've worked with kind of a few various organizations, namely IBM, Deloitte. How do you thrive in kind of such an organization? How do you kind of stand out?
Yeah, the big thing that I would say for big organizations, right? So it's kind of interesting because I started my career at IBM, and then I went and shifted to a smaller company where I did sales. I was a senior account executive, and then I shifted to an even smaller company after that, where I basically ran the business for all of Ontario and Western Canada, and then moved back to the big company. So it's actually an interesting thing, because I learned the skills that I needed to learn within the big company at IBM, and then as I shifted down, I learned different skills and I learned different cultures. That it was actually interesting, because then when I got to Deloitte, I knew how to navigate, which I'll answer your question in a second, this is a preamble. I knew how to navigate, how to manage the larger organization, but I also could bring elements of culture that the smaller organizations are what I really love. And so that helped as I shaped my career at Deloitte. But to answer your question directly though, to me it's about making sure that you build the right level of air cover. I call it air cover, but it's effectively having mentors within organizations to help drive your success. You need to have champions that are going to actually drive and make sure that you're getting the right visibility, you're getting the right support. The other thing I'd say is that in big companies, it's very easy to get focused sort of in the zone you're in, but there's so much more there. And so when you think about IBM or Deloitte, for example, yes, I've been in the SAP space all the time, but I also then spent time with the technology business, the sales arm of the business, and so when you really look at it, it's about making sure you're networking across the board, and your network is kind of your ability to succeed in a large organization. So for me, how I became successful is I really did that. So I kind of created a network map in the organizations I've been in, and then kind of looked to see, where do I want to get introduced, where do I do coffee chats, how do I make sure that I'm getting my voice known, I'm getting my work known in terms of what I've been doing. And then also you need to think about what can you bring to these other folks as well, because it can't just be a take relationship, right? It's got to be one where you're bringing something to the table, you're bringing something that they then want to trust you and can trust you because you're delivering something of value to them as well.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sean. And kind of hold that thought on the champions and career champions, because I want to kind of build on that a little bit, but and I think everyone has a story and a timeline in terms of career trajectory. Was there something in yours that changed your trajectory from a career standpoint, or was it a combination of different things?
Yeah, the biggest thing for me was calculated risks. I spent 9 years kind of going up in the ranks at IBM. I mean, I started there as a university grad, and then I left there as an associate partner. But what was really interesting is I had an opportunity where I was selling. I was doing a bunch of sales roles at IBM, and so I kind of had this point in my life where I said, do I want to go be a partner in IBM and continue down this path and kind of work that angle for the next however long, or am I more suited to be in a sales role and go take on a VP, like try to get to VP sales or get to a country manager role in different organizations. And so I kind of took this calculated risk that said, I think I need to try something different, because if I don't, I'll never know. And so I ended up leaving IBM, which was actually a very difficult decision, because I was on a great trajectory, great brand, and needed to just make this shift. I'd say that was probably the pivotal point in my career, because then from there I ended up taking on a senior account executive where I was actually managing most of the banks in Toronto. I had 3 pretty good years, and then that made me realize that I wanted to go back to consulting. So it actually did what I wanted it to do. It really answered the question: am I, wanting to be more in sales or more in consulting? And so it brought me back to consulting, and then it got me to run a company and then work through selling that company. And that was a pretty amazing experience that brought me to Deloitte. So, leaving IBM, as hard as it was actually a pretty amazing move to see how you kind of grow quickly and then find different ways to build your skill sets.
Thank you. Calculated risks, right? It's so critical, whether it's a combination of different things or different decisions that you make at every kind of point of juncture. You don't know until you open that door, right? So, and kind of figuring it out. So, thank you, Sean. Just in terms of maybe kind of the last question in this section is really, like, what are kind of some of the attributes and kind of mindset that you have to bring to continue to grow, like from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, so the cliche thing is to say to have a growth mindset. But as cliche as it actually is a great thing. And so the growth mindset's all about, you can't do something today, but you'll be able to do it tomorrow. And so it's always about the word and or not yet, right? It's just, you're gonna be able to get there. It's just not yet, right? I think for me, it's always about continuous learning as well. And also being open to trying new things, trying different things. And then the other thing I'd say is that if someone gives you an opportunity and it feels, like this is gonna be really a stretch, but you have someone really supporting you and championing you, go do it. Like just figure it out, go do it, and don't be afraid. You've got someone there to help protect you. And I think those are other areas where I've been successful in doing that. So just attitude is the best thing, right? Attitude is one of those things that you can't teach. It's one of those things that you have to have. And so when I hire and when we bring people into Deloitte, I can teach the technology. We can teach sort of how to manage different components of a process map. But what we can't teach is someone that doesn't want to learn. And so if you don't want to learn, you don't have the right attitude, then likelihood of you joining us is slim. And look, I've never been an A+ student in my life, but I will tell you that that attitude and just the willingness to take on hard tasks and drive through just sheer effort and also connecting, it's kind of been the success driver. So attitude to me is the most important thing you can bring to any job.
Thank you. Couldn't be more true, right? I think one of my old bosses used to say, if every aspect of your job comes easy, then it's probably time to move along, right? It's you're not learning and you're not growing, and it's about that time. Personal anecdote here I'm going to share. One of the things that I have on my wall behind it, and Med has seen this and can attest to it, is really a mantra that I carry for one of the best basketball players there is, Kobe Bryant. And I can stick around to debate that after this if you like, but one of the things is really Mamba mentality and to be the best version of oneself, right? Whether it's going to continue to grow and continue to evolve. So couldn't agree more, Sean. So I'll move us along to the last section, which is really about mentoring. In terms of things that may or may not come easy, right? I think a lot of us struggle with mentoring and networking and how do we network and how do you build genuine relationships. So Sean, maybe kind of just share some insights. How do you truly build genuine relationships that are long-term, that are true in nature and genuine?
Yes, maybe I'll share a bit of a backstory to answer the question first. So when I was at U of T, we started a mentorship program. And so there was one in the school I felt that was not very good. And so I decided to work with my brother-in-law who's an executive recruiter. And we actually built a mentorship program for specifically our program that I was in, which was called CCIT, which the subset of that was Digital Enterprise Management, which is effectively just a nice way to say business and IT. But what we did is we tried to create opportunities so that we could actually have 5 people, kind of designated every year as folks that we wanted to spend a bunch of time with. And we get them connected with other companies, we get them connected with recruiters, we get them connected with sessions that we would do, and one of the things that was really amazing that came out of that. So a number of them are doing pretty cool things, but was the fact that when you looked at when we were in university, right? It was like I never had a real job, and one of the folks is a good example is he was a lifeguard. And he couldn't, he's like, how am I going to get a job? I'm a lifeguard. Like I don't have any real skills. And we actually flipped it around from a mindset perspective and said, actually, you have one of the most important jobs you could think of. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I just sit on a chair. Like I don't really do anything. And we said, but if someone starts drowning, you got to save a life. Like that's a pretty big deal. And so it was really about kind of shifting his mindset to say, you know what, I've done some really important things now. And so when we went, we got him some interviews, we got him into a couple companies, and now he's off doing some pretty cool retail stuff. He was the head of Walmart retail for a while, but it's just amazing how you empower someone through story and through just mindset that allows them to just have a shift. And that shift is where it creates opportunity. And so that was just a good example of the story that we did, through U of T. But just overall mentoring relationships to me have to come from like a symbiotic. relationship, right? And what I find actually really interesting now is I talk with a number of our team members, and they come in and they're 22, 23 years old, and it's like they have so much more gumption and sort of usage of tools that I don't use. So I think reverse mentoring in a certain way is also very useful. And so that's where it becomes symbiotic, because I can help kind of talk through the corporate culture, talk through who to meet and how to meet them and how to set up meetings and how to structure, discussions. But, there's things that I need to learn. And so a lot of that's going to be technology. A lot of it's going to be about how are you getting access to information and how can I be more efficient. And I think that, when it comes to mentoring, it really is about having a trusted relationship. The trusted relationship comes through being able to help each other and give ideas that are free-flowing, and ideas that you're not judging, there's no judgment, right? And I think that's another thing too, is we always call it the judgment-free zone, or the kind of the cone of trust, that some people know some of the old movies, but to me, mentoring is the most important part of any part of your career. And ultimately, as you go through your career, you will have multiple mentors. You might have multiple at one time. And it's important to understand where to pull on to get where you want to go, and understand the goals you want to try to achieve, and they're there to help you.
Thank you. It's fascinating, the symbiotic view of mentoring, right? And the reverse mentoring is put yourself in kind of the person that you're approaching, that you're looking for from a mentoring standpoint, and ask yourself, how do I help you? Similarly, in terms of the same way that I'm looking for help, right? So it's really kind of a shift in kind of how you think and from a perspective standpoint. So the big takeaway there is really work on your elevator pitch. Your elevator pitch should be really at kind of at your grasp at every single time when you're looking and having these conversations, right? So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, the one piece I'd add to this, so I remember there was an entrepreneur speaker I went to go see one time, and he said, what you need to do is tell the world what you want, right? And the more the people know what you want to achieve, the better opportunities there are for you to actually get that. And if people don't know what you want, it's hard, because no one's going to be able to come to you and say, hey, I got a job, because they don't know what you want, right? So I took that to heart, and it's one of those things where, even today, in the firm, I go in, and I was just meeting with a couple of our senior partners last week, and I said, I want to go and do like X, Y, Z. Right? Like, this is the role I want, and they're like, perfect. Let's make a plan, and let's get you there. And so, you really do gotta, they say put it out to the world, and I truly believe that putting things out to the world actually does create more opportunity. There's a lot of people. It's a small world, and there's a lot of opportunity. And if people don't know what you're looking for, you'll never get it.
Thanks, Sean. Have you had a mentor?
Right. Thank you. Have you had a mentor that's actually, or a colleague, who's made an impact on you, and how and why?
Yeah, I mean, I've had multiple actually, so it just depends on the season of where I'm at in my career. So I had, my brother-in-law, who was a big mentor for me through university. He was recruiting and talking to CEOs and CFOs all the time, so I got to get a different perspective from him. When I started my career at IBM, there was a gentleman that became sort of my champion, who ran the SAP practice there. I still talk to him. We go to lunch once a month. Those are people that have made pretty big impacts. And then now at Deloitte, I have another mentor who's a senior partner there that runs all the technology business. And so she, is someone who's a bit of a sounding board for me. And funny enough, she knew me back in 2006 when I was at IBM as well. So it is a bit of a small world, but the people that you hold on to are the ones that one, you would never want to let down, and two, are the ones that are always going to be your champion. And so those are three examples to me that I still keep very close with all three of them. But I wouldn't be where I am without any of them. And so that's kind of the key thing for me.
And I think we all have one, right? There's always something that someone said at some point in time that it always sticks with you for some reason, that actually takes you far. What's kind of one piece of advice that you wish you had earlier in your career, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, when you're just graduating university and you're young and you're just kind of getting going, and you're afraid a little bit to be bold. And so there's a quote that says fortune favors the bold, and so it's hard to work up the courage and kind of the, I guess, the gumption to be able to go and be bold at certain times. But that's one thing that I would say that I gradually got better and better at being bold as I got more confident in my abilities. But if I could have done that from the beginning, could I have done something faster? Maybe. Could I have done something different? For sure. And so for me, it's about just go in with the fact that you have some courage, you can be bold, no one's going to hold it against you. If it's doing the right thing to make a really good impact, whether that impact is on, if you're consulting on the company you're working for or the client you're working with, no one's going to say something bad, right? It's all about sort of the larger client impact and sort of impact you can make to the broader scheme of things. And so for me, kind of that whole being bold piece, it took me a while to get there, but I'd say that that would be the big thing for me because it takes you a long way.
And could it be so much more critical for this group, right? And I say this because we were just having a conversation with this random stuff earlier, that humility is ingrained in our DNA, right, as Eritreans, which is a gift and a curse. And I said this at our last event, right? In a corporate setting, it is your doom. Like, if you cannot talk about yourself and what you bring to the table and do it with pride, it's not going to go. So being bold and kind of going after what you want, Sean, I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Sean, for your insights. I'm going to kind of close us off there and really kind of move us to Q&A. So have anyone in the audience put up your hands and someone will help kind of bring a mic over to you unless you can shout. Yeah?
For the information you've given us. I come from life science background, so my knowledge about AI is very limited, but I still have a question for you, especially for about the impact. I happen to know Professor Jeffrey Hinton, probably know him from University of Toronto.
Yeah, I know the name.
He's referred as the father of AI, or the grandfather of AI.
Yes.
And recently has been very vocal about the dangers of AI in the future, especially if AI is going to be reasoning and making its own goals. We are doomed. We are in trouble. And it could do hostile goals and it can affect us all. And the other thing that goes with it is also, we're not doing this critical thinking. There will be mental atrophy, and we'll not be thinking as much as we used to do, and that's also accelerates the problem. And my question is, what are experts doing, AI experts or governments, in order to integrate code of conduct or ethics, AI ethics, into the system and the applications, so we will be safer in the future? Thank you.
It's a good question. You triggered two thoughts in my mind as you were talking through it. I heard a story last week about a robot that was delivering for DoorDash in San Francisco, and then the robot started turning on somebody, and so the developer actually had to shut the robot down. So, to your point of things can be dangerous, sure, things can happen. If you've seen the movie I, Robot, you probably understand where that's coming from. In terms of ethics my story, I'll give you my second story that came to mind too. 90% of AI projects in companies today fail. And the reason for that is because it's in so much of its infancy, no one really knows what they're doing. And so there's a bit of, it's a bit scary because obviously there's a lot of trial and error, there's a lot of things happening. And so that's also, it kind of telling story about, where we're at in sort of the life cycle of AI. And so, have we figured out the ethics? Have we figured out, the how it's going to work? I don't think so. I think we've got a long way to go. We talked about, in Deloitte, we talk about a AI-enabled human capital. That's what we talk about. And so really it's about how are we using it to work with us to do better, but at the same time, where do things fall? So if you're, another example is, I think this was 2 or 3 years ago, a Samsung engineer put the chip patent into ChatGPT and wanted to make it better, and then he ended up giving all the trade secrets away for the screen, for the TVs. And so they killed ChatGPT and Samsung for the next 2 years. But that's where there's probably some ethics things that come out. That person got fired because you still have to adhere to data privacy. You still have to adhere to doing the right things, and you got to follow the values of the company. And if you're using something with AI that's causing you to fall away from the values, then you're breaking the code of conduct. And so that's what's built into our code of conduct today. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you,
Like Dana.
Sean. Very engaging discussion, very timely as well. I'm just placing myself in the position of someone who might be starting their career, somebody who's thinking about landing a job in every industry, and there is this challenge that I see that from companies' perspective, they're looking at how do they reduce the workforce. And then at the same time, they have this huge number of new graduates or people who came new to this country who are trying to land a job. And so, the question that I have, and I wonder about this all the time, especially when we're having discussions, is what kinds of practical things can people do today as they are applying for a job, as they're looking for a job, as they're looking to change their careers? And to that as well, even for those people who have jobs, what should they do? As an example, some takeaways that people can take today that they can do to make themselves literate about AI and how it can help them in their jobs, in their specific jobs. So that kind of stuff could be really, really helpful, I think, to this audience as well. Thank you.
So I would say that there's a couple things that come out of your question. So maybe I'll start with, how do you get jobs? We'll start with that. And I don't have a silver bullet, but what I will say is that I also think we're afforded an opportunity right now to be more entrepreneurial than we've ever been in our lives. And that's because you've got so much information at your hands and your fingertips that you can actually start creating businesses with a lot less money and a lot less effort. So that's kind of one thing that I think you're going to see a shift in terms of employment. You're going to see a lot more entrepreneurial work happening. We've had the gig industry for a while, but now I think it's going to accelerate, and I think we're going to see more of that. But to go to a bigger company or to go into a big company and figure out how to do that, there's a number of free resources that Harvard has, I think Microsoft does as well, around training on AI tools. I would say, at a bare minimum, do that. Put that on your resume, put that also into some form of a narrative that says, you've done something with AI, whether it's build, decks, whether it's build a story, build something. You need to be able to showcase that and showcase how you were able to become more efficient by doing it. And so you need to be able to find those stories and to be able to kind of stand out from the crowd. The one thing that's interesting in consulting right now is we actually have taken a lot less grads than we used to, and the reason for that is because we have a lot more work kind of moving to India, and so that's another challenge in itself. I do think it's cyclical. I think we'll probably see that swing back at some point in the next couple of years, but that doesn't help us right now. But what I would say is around AI, you just need to show that you've got a mentality of, that you're learning, that there's tools out there that you're using, and that's going to be a lot better than probably some others. I think other people are going to just throw a resume into a resume database and say, let's hope for the best. But like anything, right? Whether you do AI today or you do it tomorrow, it's all about really the network that you have around you. So whenever you have an ability to get your resume to the top of the heap versus just putting it into an online database, you're going to have a much better chance of getting a job. And so I think that, number one to me is the network. Number two is make sure you know what Gen AI is doing in the market. Make sure you're staying literate, you're staying researched. And then number three is making sure that you build the story that you want to have, so that when you go into an interview, or when you're having a conversation in an elevator, or when you see somebody on the street, there's so many different tactics you can have to try to meet people. Just make sure you got your story figured out, because that's actually going to be also super important.
I really love the statement you make. Tell the world your story, what you want to have. I think that's a huge takeaway, I think, for all of us here, because to Jonathan's point, a lot of us tend to be shy and kind of feel that I have the knowledge. If somebody gives me the opportunity, I can show it to them. No, that's not the way to do it. Tell your story. Be proactive about telling everybody who could listen to your story. So that's a huge takeaway from this. Thank you.
Can I speak instead of doing?
Well, they need to read.
So we're talking about AI in general. I was wondering if there's any specific technologies that you would suggest learning.
So there's a few of them. I mean, obviously ChatGPT is going to be used by everybody.
That's the text-based one.
ChatGPT?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just prompting, but it also can be used for many things. I use it as my accountant. I use it I'm actually trying to buy a car right now. So I'm using it to do a complete rank and file of all the different vehicles that I'm looking at, doing 5-year TCOs on that car. And so it is my tool. It's my tool that gets me through life. So that's one. There's a couple others which I can send as a group, but there's a couple others, and the reason why I don't know them all off the top of my head is because we have our internal Deloitte tools and we're supposed to stay within those. But there's things where they're going to create PowerPoints. There's things where you can actually do it to build websites. There's things that you can do to actually just get a lot more efficient. That before you'd have to know how to code, now you don't.
So you can use ChatGPT on a resume as a skill.
I would, if you don't do that, then it's that's bare minimum. I would say. Yeah.
I use it pretty heavily, so I didn't know that because it seems very intuitive. So my other question is, you mentioned that you invested heavily in SAP lifecycle. Has that made your process more efficient, or have you found yourself going back to fix things, or even just scripting things, hard coders like in Linux?
So we're a lot more efficient. Yeah, we're 25 to 40% more efficient in our projects, and that comes from the actual coding itself. So when you go in, and so I'll tell you what we do. Here's the secret. So we use Copilot from Microsoft, right? And when we do our workshops to figure out what we call user stories, which are essentially requirements, those get recorded, and then we feed those recordings into our Gen D, which is ChatGPT. Then that spits out what we would call functional specification. So that specification is basically all the details that the system needs to achieve what that requirement is. And then the last step is the actual customization that comes. So there's actually a technical specification, but it actually codes it for you. So it writes all the code, and that goes into SAP.
So you've automated your miscellaneous tasks.
We've automated the development tasks, and we've automated the documentation tasks.
But not so much like development and coding.
No, the development for sure. So we go in, the system will actually say, we'll give it a technical specification, and we'll say, this is what we need to do. It'll actually go in and create all of the, so it's called ABAP coding, and it'll write all of that code for us.
This is like, I haven't done system design in a while, so is that what you mean?
Which one's right?
Like system design, so asking them to create use cases.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome. Final case before I hand it off.
Okay.
So in the 2000s, there was a dot-com bubble that peaked, and then it crashed by 78% by 2002. With currently 95% of AI companies seeing no returns reported by the HIM. I was wondering, do you think there's a similar bubble with AI, soon to be AI bubble burst? And what advice would you give for professionals to take advantage of a bubble burst?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't see it bursting, and I'll tell you why. Because you would have saw probably last week or 2 weeks ago, Oracle just want to deal with Scale AI, and it's $330 billion, and they're basically loading all the data from Scale AI into their data centers, and so their cloud. And so we're consuming so much data, and there's so much data happening at all times, and that data is a currency. I just believe that as we need to do more, because AI is all about data, and so there's going to be so much investment happening in commercial real estate right now around data centers, and the reason for that is because we have so much data being captured, and so companies like Facebook, well, Meta, I guess, and there's Oracle, there's Scale AI, there's Microsoft, right? Those are kind of the big ones. I'd say that Amazon's doing its own thing in its own regard, but the other ones are really the true AI kind of leaders, I'd say, right now. And I just think that we're so much in its infancy, it's going to evolve so much more, and they're going to sell this, as a service that is going to be a lot more efficient than people doing things in the system. And I don't see it slowing down. I think we're also going to see a big divide around, and this is a bit scary, but I think we're going to see a big divide around the people that are running AI versus people that aren't. And so if you're running AI, you have the power. And that's the scary thing.
Can I just rebuttal really good?
Sure.
So they're all businesses at the end of the day. There's profit first. A lot of them are seeing no returns and finding that they're actually losing money. For example, ChatGPT Plus is about $200 a month, and they're actually losing money because of just the electricity cost for each prompt. And I think it's a bit overhyped in terms of the executives expecting more from AI automation and expecting it to do more to replace entry-level roles. So would you still not say that if it's not creating returns for quote-unquote stakeholders, that it would eventually drift away? So they, as you said earlier, it would bring back more graduate roles.
Yeah.
Maybe I just wanted to share kind of my opinion a little bit on this one, because I think you touched on a really critical kind of component. And one of the things that I want to maybe just even break as a myth is that AI has been around for a while. We've been using predictive AI for years within kind of the banking cycle, and specifically within my kind of area where I'm in fraud and security, right? So when we're talking about like fraud prevention, we are looking at patterns to understand, is this a normal patterns? Is this kind of fall outside of Sean's normal trajectory? Is he normally doing transactions in the middle of the night? And using that is really predictive AI with kind of machine learning that we've infused, that we've been using for years, and I'm talking about early 90s. We are actually using generative AI now, and I'll kind of give you a very concrete example to say, using generative AI for non-technical practitioners to understand what the data is saying. So using AI to actually not embracing it from a tech standpoint, but actually making it understandable or consumable from everyday practitioners to say, what is this data telling me? What is the type of insights? What can I actually drive? And these are actual use cases from a generative AI. More like formally now, we're also looking at agentic AI, which is actually autonomous decision making and kind of leaning into some of that automated decision making of those kind of entry level roles that you kind of alluded to say, you know what, can some of these decisions actually be fully automated, that we can actually focus our staff on more complex issues and decision making, right? So these are actual real use cases that are happening across the industry that I just wanted to kind of share from kind of my perspective. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add one more point. Amazon didn't make money in their cloud for a really, really long time. And they are the largest cloud provider in the world. So, I mean, it's their biggest business they have, and it drives a lot of valuation. So I'd say that just sometimes things take time.
Maybe one more question? Yeah. No.
My dad has one question. Do you have a question?
I was going to say something.
I was waiting for you.
I was hoping Ned isn't throwing us a hard one here.
I know. That's what I was going to end it right there.
I will say something.
My question is about efficiency and trust on AI. So I know you mentioned earlier about business efficiency and how efficient it's been for you. I know Uber's mentioned about how they want to automate its workforce with in regards to drop-offs and pickups. Do you feel like we're gonna get to a point where businesses will put most of its trust in AI? Like, have you put most of your trust in AI?
I think the answer is yes. I just don't know how long it's going to take. I mean, inherently, we people doubt things, right? That's kind of the inherent thing we have. But I think eventually we will get to the point where it's proven itself so many times that it'll create trust. But I just don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, one more.
Can I just add something too? I think we're talking a lot about technical stuff, and there are some of you who may not be in IT. I'm not in IT, I work for TELUS Health. I'm in business development, and I have to use AI because TELUS invested so much in AI. We actually partnered with NVIDIA. We are building a warehouse somewhere in Calgary and I think in Quebec. But how I use it in my sales journey is I have to write a lot of proposals. I have to do a lot of things to get a sale across, right? And understanding your client. So I actually go on and use our TELUS Health AI to understand who my clients are, who my competitors are, to also generate my proposal. Actually, we used to have proposal writers, we still do, but I don't need them as much because we have our own. I'll ask questions and I'll spit out all these answers for my RFP. So, for those of you who are entrepreneurial, you could do a business plan using AI, right? So all those barriers that you used to have in terms of going to get your MBA and so on, you might need a little technical knowledge, but AI can actually do a lot of that for you. So I'll resume that.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I have to say, you put me on. So, I just want to be clear, AI is not only about ChatGPT. Every single software, SAP S4 has its own AI. Salesforce has its own AI. Okay, every single one of them. AI is going to be embedded into everything. We were working when I was in pharma as CIO with Sean to implement a smart factory. Completely automated, augmented reality. There are a lot of technologies involved. AI just accelerates what we can do with those technologies. So, what I would suggest is don't just get stuck on learning very specific AI, learn the foundation and apply it to the area that you want to go in. If you're going to go to finance, there's a very specific area of AI that's very helpful in finance. Yeah? So that's what I would say. It's like build your knowledge of AI relevant to what you want to do in your career, okay? And don't get stuck in one door. Have multiple paths.
That was so short, madam.
That was short.
Wow.
I'm surprised.
But well said, though.
I see most of the discussion is going about AI. Just to bring it back to the basics for those new graduates who are trying to apply for jobs with applications. Do you have any tricks or ideas or somehow how they could tweak their applications when they send their resumes, applications to jobs, and they get screened out by computers or AIs? Is there a way to bypass that, something like that, to be helpful for the new graduates?
Yeah, I mean, so the only way to well, I shouldn't say one of the main ways to doing a bypass of those things is by getting your resume put in by someone within the company, right? That's the number one thing. So really it's about networking. I mean, I don't have any good tips and tricks. There used to be, a long time ago, you could like hide words in the footer of the things so that you get caught by the systems, but now that doesn't work anymore. So, for me with your resume, I think it's important that you obviously tailor it to the role, you tailor it to, what you're trying to do. In the top section, I think it's important that you actually have a proper kind of story about what you're trying to achieve, so that you've got something there that's of substance. I think that there's something around tools that you're learning, and you can't just write Microsoft Office because everyone will write that. To me, it's probably the different Gen AI tools that you want to bring to the bear, but I mean, to Ned's point, like make it focused on the area that you want to spend time in, right? So if it's finance, it's got to be a finance-driven resume. It can't be a general one that you're going to go send to 30 people. You know, you got to make sure that you really tailor things. And I mean, I don't really have a silver bullet around getting kind of through that whole portal process, other than having someone put it in for you, like from the company.
2 more questions.
Thank you so much, Sean. My name is Mubarak. I'm a software engineer at IBM. So I was listening to you carefully. And so I just want to know your opinion on how AI is going to affect the way how we study, like how it's going to affect education. Like, you know, when I think about this question, I can see like people nowadays, they have access to really good AI models that they can ask questions. Maybe they can be able to learn a lot more faster than before, because they can consult AI at any time, whenever they want, and that could be something good. And also another thing that I think about with like education is maybe like since knowledge is easily accessible through these AI models, maybe educations probably have to focus more on work, like getting people experience that they need to go out and work. And so I just want to, these are the things that I've been thinking about like recently about when I think about education. And if you have like any opinion on like how it could impact the way how we study, and if you still think that university education is as important as it used to. Thank you.
It's a really good question. It's one that I actually think about probably a fair bit. And the reason why I do is because I think there's 2 things. So your first part of the question was, how is it impacting education in terms of people and what they're doing? So, you know, even at a high school level, people that are leveraging, AI to write their essays and do the work for them. So then there's this whole idea of, is it plagiarism, right? Because it's taking from all these sources, and so that's another conundrum that we've got in the education space. But I think your latter part of where you were going is probably what is more concerning, which is, are universities relevant in the future? I think that's the question we need to ask. And the reason why I say that is because I think if universities don't change their curriculum to better align with how we're going to learn, how we're going to be able to get jobs, how we're going to be able to define business in the future, then it's irrelevant. And so this is my concern about the Canadian university system. And so I have a friend of mine who's an executive director at U of T, and I've had this debate with her at length about how I think the universities are going to die. But I also think that there's 2 parts of university, and I have a 5-year-old, she's turning 5 in November, and I think to myself, like, yes, you want her to go to university because it's the right thing to do, but then you also ask yourself, well, what is she going to get there that she can't get from leveraging the right AI tools, or doing things differently from an entrepreneurial perspective. And there's 2 things in university that I think are good no matter what they do with their curriculums and how they go about. It does teach you discipline, and it does build a network. And so those 2 things are actually really, really important. And so it doesn't matter what you come out with, whether it's a BA, or you've got political science, psychology, business, whatever, there's 2 things that you came out with. A network of people, and you came out with an ability to understand how to manage deadlines, how to be more disciplined, and then really be able to kind of work in teams, right? So great skill sets that you need for the working world. And so I think there's going to be some inherent things that university is always going to be good at, but I think you're going to start to see a shift as people have all this information and can have these guides and basically assistants at all times. They're going to say, I don't think it's worthwhile. And if the universities don't adapt to that, then I think we are in a bit of trouble.
Okay, 2 more questions. So I have. What? Keep going. Okay.
Hello, my name is Solomon. I'm a student at U of T. Thank you so much for the discussion that you brought today. I have a question about something that you were mentioning earlier, how a lot of the new grad roles have been offshored to India or to Eastern countries recently, but you did mention that there were still new grads that were being hired at your organization and other consulting firms. And so I'm wondering if you could maybe discuss more on the specific qualities and traits that maybe your organization has been focusing more on when hiring these new grads? I know you mentioned having the desire to learn and desire to grow. However, when I think about that, I often think it's harder to translate those on something like a resume or a portfolio. So I'm wondering if there was something more. Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like Maya, you should answer this question because you just started at university. But I'd say that what we look for is there's two parts to this for us, right? So we've got a notion of we need to think about continuity within the firm, and so we have to make sure that we do hire people in from universities because we want them to grow and become consultants, senior consultant manager, senior manager, and partners, because we need people to grow up in the firm. And you kind of continue our values, you continue the mindset, and we need to think about leaders that we want to bring in and do that. When you're an analyst coming in from university, we probably don't think you're going to be a leader right away. But what we will look for is traits that showcase that you can be a leader. And so that's where when you're building your resume or you're looking for opportunities that are in school, like, I did the mentorship program thing, but joining associations, kind of being on boards, being on things that are helpful within the school, that shows leadership. And so those are the types of things that are really important for us as we look at our candidates. The other thing I'd say is, be part of associations outside of the school. So the other thing that I did when I was in university is I was part of the Canadian Marketing Association. And that allowed me to network, but it also allowed me to showcase that I was doing things beyond the school. And so that shows that you're branching outside your comfort zone. So there's different components that we look for when we kind of assess against what you're bringing, not only from a resume, but and obviously the resume is sort of the first, I guess we'll call it first line of defense, right? It's really the first area we look at. But then when you go and you dig deep, and if you get into the interview, then these are the stories you need to be sharing, because that'll showcase a lot of leadership, and it'll showcase your ability to actually work closely with other people, and it'll also showcase the fact that you're willing to learn new things. And so those are all important traits.
My name is Herman. The question I had is, before you guys implemented AI in Deloitte, what was the pushbacks or concerns that you guys had? Just because I'm working on an AI and I just wanted a little bit to work on before I started it.
So you mean in terms of when we put it?
In terms of management, what was a lot of concerns that you guys discussed, if you don't mind sharing?
Our biggest thing is just leaking information, right? So we're really worried about anything that could get out, because we take privacy very, very important, very important, right? So our business is client service. And so if for some reason our client's data or client's information gets put outside of the walls of Deloitte, that's our reputation. And that's our biggest worry always.
I will start with Charles Babbage. He's the father of computers, actually, because you just mentioned about IBM, and I believe IBM was the master of computers a long time back. I don't know where it is now. I don't think that it is with the mass of computer and IT knowledge. I don't think that it is existing in the same place that it was before. Right. With the experience of 10 years in the computer analyst, and then backed up with, of course, data analysis was still up there. With the logistics, you mentioned, I'm talking about logistics and not the supply chain total. Particularly in logistics, you mentioned about the warehouse equipment. That could be AI, and I think it is also part of it is in AI. I can see in Amazon, they are using the robots, the drive, and so on. And then the drive will shoot it, and then it will go to the box, and so on. And now, where does AI affect in the logistics part? Mainly in the warehousing and the transportation as well. Still there is the supply chain is the big. I'm not talking about it. That's a very wide area. But let's say on that one only, and I thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question. So I would say that you talked about the hardware, which is true, right? So all that's happening in the hardware space. But from an AI perspective, in a warehouse. So I don't know how many people have been in a warehouse. I used to be a picker in a warehouse, so I used to actually go up and down the aisles and load up things on a pallet jack. So the one thing that AI is going to be doing, and it's already doing, is trying to make the route planning a lot more efficient, so that you can actually get product picked faster, and then you can be able to obviously ship faster, right? So that's one element that's happening today, and I think it was sort of happening before, but now it's just accelerating. And then also, when you're able to understand where a product is and how it's being picked, then that also then speeds up your ability to pick product. And similarly on the transportation side, we're seeing a lot of route planning in that sense as well. So where the trucks are going and how they're going out is also being planned a lot more efficiently, and less people drive. Well, yeah, there's less people driving too. But I think that for us, AI is really driving kind of efficiencies through carriers. So if you think about the big cost for companies is carriers, and so AI is also starting to help try to improve the ability to get the right cost from carriers and manage that. There's the route planning that happens. There's driverless trucks. There's that last mile has always been the hardest problem, and actually very relevant today because Canada Post is going to kill delivery. And so when we think about those things, that's where we're going to start to see everything from privatized mail delivery that's going to be driven by most likely some level of automation, and then also how we ship product to companies or to customers is going to have to be a lot more effective as well. So reduce the length of routes and things like that. Obviously you've got freight, you've got things that happen by ship, and so then when you're shipping from China to Vancouver and then going from Vancouver to Toronto, how do you make that into a much more effective way?
But don't you think that it will be a driver? AI will just take the...
Well, so Elon's doing that, right? I mean, he's doing that with trucks. It's coming.
Yeah, it's okay. So, Meta, we want to close it up, but I'll let you speak your...
Close it out, but there's one topic I just want to emphasize something.
What is, this is something that you touched earlier, but I want everybody to take home something today. And what is the basic information or knowledge about AI that everybody in this room, literally everybody in this room, should know?
You stole my thunder. That was going to be my closing That's how it's going to close. So, over to you, Sean. Your two last takeaways for everyone here.
So I'll give the easy one. Be bold, right? I think that we heard that a few times today, and obviously it's pertinent to this audience. Don't feel like being uncomfortable is an issue, right? Being uncomfortable is good. And be bold, be really willing to take on more tasks or more work that you think is kind of outside your comfort zone. That's okay. So that's number one. Now to your question around what can you do to learn AI, and I would say think about everything you do in a day, and what parts of your day can be, one, automated, two, what can we do to make your day or access to information faster? And then three, it's going to be, just go on and leverage these free courses, whether it's from Microsoft, Harvard, or MIT. They all have these free courses online. Go home tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Go and actually learn about them, and then enroll. Like it doesn't cost a cent, and you will learn a great deal about the business side of it. You'll learn a great deal about different tools, but also how do you apply it from a business lens, and then also how do you apply it from an everyday perspective. So those would be my two big takeaways, I would say.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for truly fascinating. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you especially for being here because I heard through Bertie that it's your birthday. So happy birthday, Sean. We're not going to make everyone sing happy birthday. Sorry. We're not going to make everyone sing happy birthday, but we did want to present this from the committee. So thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us. Let's keep the conversation going. Learn and grow and go back to the next part of the evening. Thank you all. Have a good evening. Thank you. As we wrap up this part of the conversation, what we wanted to do is invite Luam, Kirane, and Sammy over to the front to share their testimonials. I don't know what they look like, so Gideon, if you want to point them out to me, I can make sure they come down.
Luam is there.
There you go. Thank you, Luam.
Come down.
We see Sammy. Okay.
Stand up.
Thank you, Luam.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lo, and I came here 3 years ago here to Canada, and I was looking for a job in construction. But when I first came here, I thought it was the job market is so high, so I thought I have to work anything I got, and I decided to work on other job which is not in my field. And after that, I saw the situation was too hard for me to work in another field. So I really liked my field, which is in construction studies, civil engineering. And so after a while, I have talked to a friend of mine who introduced me to Eripmn. He told me there is mentors that could help me with my job search. And I registered in Eripmn about a year and a half ago. And before that, my job search was not interesting at all, because I was doing it all by myself, and I wasn't seeing any much of a difference, or I have never been called for an interview. And after I registered to Eripmn, I got the mentorship, extensive support from the engineering cluster team. Actually, the mentors are not here today, but I wanted to thank them all for supporting me. They also gave me a lot of information that I couldn't get on my own. And then using those resources and by taking the advices from my mentors, especially Takasta, Meron, Ambasu, and Engineer Brooke as well, all of them had a lot of impact on me and helping me with getting co-ops programs and bridging, and they also helped me to how to enroll in bridging programs. And after all those mentorships, recently I got a job through Eripmn. I wanted to thank them all, and especially Yehdego. He was the one who was sent the job opportunity on our engineering cluster's WhatsApp group, and I decided to apply. And I also wanted to thank Engineer Mikhail. He was the one who recommended me to this job, and it was my dream job. I thought I wouldn't get it at all. But thanks to Eripmn and to all of you, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all. This mic doesn't like me for some reason. So I think at this point, yeah? All right.
It was okay for her.
It's okay.
Do you want to try the podium?
It's okay. Don. It's okay. I think you guys can hear me pretty loud. Okay. I think we're gonna wrap up this testimonial section as part of this the last part of our program. We're gonna move to kind of networking, right? Which is what I think I'd want to do is get the cluster leads up front here, so or stand up where you are, whatever is easier, so that people can recognize where the different cluster leads are. So health, do we have health cluster leads here? Thank you. If you can just stand up, please. Or you can go to the front, yeah? Okay, come to the front.
We want a photo
We'll get you to the front.
We want a
Please
photo.
and thank you.
All of the leads.
All of the leads, actually, yeah. Sorry, if I can do that, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. If we get all the leads, the cluster leads to come to the front. Not everyone's here, but it's okay.
Natasha's here.
Is there anyone else?
Jonathan, you can come down for IT.
For IT.
Ivana, are you here? She's there? Okay.
Okay, so these are the cluster leads, at least the ones that are here today. Gideon, if you want to start the cluster leads for.
I'm with the engineering. The cluster leads are off today, so I'm covering for them.
All right, perfect.
I'm part of the team. Yeah.
Thank you, Gideon.
Hi everyone, my name is Lamek. I'm the co-head of the legal cluster.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Yodi Kaptai, one of the coordinators for healthcare cluster.
Oh.
The same here, in healthcare as well.
All right, healthcare.
My name is Ephraim. The cluster leads for IT are not here. Usually very, very active. Yeah. And Jonathan is here. So any discussions to do with IT related stuff, we're going to be on one side, and anybody who's interested in that, you can come and we can have a more focused discussion, especially with regards to a mentor and a mentee getting connected. So any mentors in the IT, join us, and mentees in the IT space, join as well. And we're going to do the same things with each of the clusters. The key objective today is for each one of you. If you're not connected with anybody, please go with the objective of finding someone, connect with that person, and then I was mentioning to someone as well, make a point of getting at least 3 or 4 LinkedIn connections today, so that when you go back, you can continue that conversation. So do not go without having connections established. This is the opportunity for you to do that. Everybody who's here is here because they are willing to do that, okay?
Can I say one?
Yes, absolutely.
I thought we were going to do a little update from each cluster, but as healthcare cluster, we have 160 mentees, and there's only 22 mentors. So we need more mentors. So if anybody is interested to be a mentor for the healthcare, be it nursing, public health, medical, please join us. A few of us are here, but we need more mentors. So please.
Hi there, I'm Natasha O'Clara. I'm part of the business cluster.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I am part of the IT cluster. I am on behalf of Nathaniel. He couldn't come here today, so he just sent me to take his part and to help him network. So
And everyone, I'm Jonathan. I'm part of the business cluster. So if we want to talk anything about kind of the business function or banking, etc., I'm here. And part of what we want to do, I think that Herman has kind of reinstated over and over, is we need to make sure that we have the right matching and everyone's matched between a mentor and a mentee. So what we're going to do is try to figure out how we can do this a little bit more systematically and make sure, identifying who does not have a mentor that's attached, and making sure that they have matching across mentee and mentors kind of moving forward. Sorry. Okay.
So for the networking portion, can you guys hear me at the back? Yeah. Okay, great. So for the networking portion, so we want to network within clusters so it's more effective. So IT will be on this side. So we'll be moving some of the chairs here. So IT, anyone in IT, you can chat over there. The tall guy there, you won't miss him. And him, they'll be coordinating, so they'll be on this side. Engineering will be here. And then we'll have the legal and the social services. They're not a huge group, they will be in the middle. And then out the doors to the left, healthcare. And to the right will be business. So did everyone hear their profession?
Yes.
So that's what we'll do, and we'll be
I just want to mention that anybody who is in psychology or social work is the health cluster.
Social work has its own cluster now.
Oh, do we have that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then
So-
psychology would be going to them, to the social worker.
Yep. So social services, education, because it's not a huge group, it's so far, anyone educated, interested in education to be a teacher, will be with the social services. So social services here, legal professionals here, IT, engineering, and then out the doors, healthcare and business.
Dad up there. I told guy. Oh, I'm sorry. No, anything. Actually, what's his name? Dad helped him. He's getting to that kind of climate stuff, connect himself kind of.
Yeah. You're right. Hold on, yeah, I had him I think when they were 7. So I even seen their growth. Yeah, they're all. At the same time, well, as long as you have an official perspective that you can working, so it's not like very
kind of in the right kind of like there's something along the middle. Yeah,
and then that establishes people to want willing to
But IBS competitiveness is, I think the network aspect of it is great, but Waterloo the network especially trying to like if you're more entrepreneurial, trying to tech because a lot of them go to like reality, you know, like they're really smart. I did an internship with one guy from Waterloo and he was creating something that he already had in his own investment.
Yeah.
Like they are
they're at a different level.
Yeah.
That would be my daughter. She was like
the one is just it is what it is.
Are you good? No.
You said you got home, right?
Yeah.
And the income actually, they approved it for 750.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty
I
big.
think, yeah, I'll connect you with them.
Yeah, thanks for making sure.
They're very
Along with an answer line. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So, I guess now you might probably go on like something like ChatGPT.
join them.
Another question. Yes, for sure. So, we connect you with app development. Okay.
That's why people are jumping for it.
I used to do it. I want to in my line of work, there's a program called Breaking into Wall Street, and I forgot how much it costs, but
Depends.
People
They might think that this person will come as their next step, but that's not the reason. We have gaps in our resumes for so many different reasons, but it's
No, I think it's a great. I actually do think it's quite good. Even if I think about it, I think no, seriously. I'm giving you my own opinion. No, I think it's right. No, it's all good. So I'll tell you why I think it's good. So, one, I just want I actually have to run my own company. Trying to manage it. But expenses are a big deal. So my brother's a trade. He has expenses.
So my name is Jonathan Johannes. I am in banking / security / IT. My current profession is head of global fraud management at BMO Financial Group. And really what that means is that we run the enterprise group for fraud prevention across North America.
So what inspires you to get involved with Eripmn?
What inspires me to get involved? Giving back, right? I think, so as a testament, I came here about 24 years ago, give or take, and something like this never existed, right? So for me to come here and try to figure out where to go, who to talk to, what professions are there, like where do I start, even when I start working, how do I fit in as a black person, but even more importantly, as an Eritrean within kind of the corporate culture? Those are the things that I think mentoring helps and at least gives guidance to new entrants in the market and helping them navigate through kind of that corporate kind of environment. That's really what inspires me, and give back a little bit.
That's great. And can you tell us what inspires you to become a mentor?
What inspires me to be a mentor? I think it's similar, where it's really kind of giving back. I have a son and I have a daughter. I would want guidance in the same way that I would want guidance for them. And if I can kind of provide a little bit more tips and tricks in terms of how to navigate your career that I would want for my own kids, that's really what I would want from a mentoring, and that's really what inspires me.
And last but not least, what advice would you give to young Europeans looking for mentorship or direction?
Great question. I think the advice that I would do is probably twofold. Never stop growing. Find ways of how you can continue to grow, whether it's learning, growing in any type of aspect of your role, learning new things. And the other one is figuring out, like, say yes to every opportunity. Doesn't matter how big or small it is, say yes, figure the rest out. You don't know kind of what that door is going to open for you until you're actually through that door. So that's really my advice.
Non, mon Dieu. perspective. Umuwi ako sa ganito months kugira sana ako tumayo ba siya? Sana ako tumayo. Oo, sana ako tumayo. Ano ay masalanan mo.
Thank you, Rehan, for coming. Can you briefly introduce yourself, your name, profession, and your role right now?
Definitely. Thank you for having me. My name is Rehan. My current position is I'm a people manager at a rental company. We work with insurance replacements. So that's working with big companies. We are also a big company, so it's business to business interactions and managing the relationships with the public, private people, it's a whole lot. So customer service, encouraging my employees to do great customer service, and then performance management. So if somebody's not doing so well, finding out what's wrong and helping them to get where they need to be to help the company. So that's my current position.
So how long have you been a member of Eripmn, and what inspires you to get involved with this community?
I've been with Eripmn since 2023, I believe. The first time I learned about them was through New Nakfa. We had a joint event together. What inspired me? I was so happy to see my people in a professional atmosphere helping each other. We do this amongst our family, but sometimes we need somebody outside of our family, outside of our network, and this is bridging the gap, so making us closer, helping us grow.
So what does being a mentor mean to you?
I think being a mentor is, it's a great feeling to share advice. And the one thing I will say is 2023 is when I got my first leadership position in the company I work for. So I didn't think right away I was going to be a good mentor, but you realize it doesn't matter what stage of your career you're in. Maybe you're a little bit ahead of somebody else and you could give advice to somebody who's going through the same thing as you. So for example, someone who's been a leader for 20, 30 years, maybe they won't be as helpful to somebody who's just starting out. So I just experienced what they experienced, so I could give them good advice. So being a mentor, I did it from the second I joined. I wasn't so confident that I knew everything, but I knew something, and I wanted to share that.
So what advice would you give to young Eritreans looking for mentorship or direction?
Be friendly, be open, be excited, and don't give up, because everybody's busy. Like, you know, even in your friends and your family, sometimes you can't reach somebody every day. So if you miss somebody one day, try again another time, maybe try a different way. And don't take offense when people are busy, but definitely try and grow your network. Any person you meet, even on the street, can be an opportunity. Who knows, maybe they have a business they're opening and they need somebody like you to join it. It could be an option. So keep your mind open, keep your heart open. People can tell if you're being truthful, and be yourself.
Oh my God, you're so good.
I like to talk.
You're asking me to say something about myself?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am in the design build phase of my life. If you ask me what I did or what profession I'm in, it's evolved over the many, many years that I've been involved in so many different things, but right now I'm more focused on design build, sell and buy process, real estate as well as developments. So why? The next question?
That's good. So the next question is, what inspires you to get involved with Eripmn?
So the question was, what inspires me to get involved with Eripmn? The bottom line is that I know most of the people that have started it, and they won't let me go anywhere else. You see them anywhere you go, you see them, and they're talking about it. No, jokes aside, this is something that was way overdue. I wish, when I was younger, we had these type of opportunities, but I always come to this event channeling someone who was very important to me, my brother, who was also very involved in affecting youth. So for me to see a lot of young men, especially the ones that remind me of my brother, reflective of, I just said to somebody just now, I just met someone and he reminds me of Aaron. And it's crazy for me to say that, but It's just the mannerisms and things like that. And you know what? This is the right people. It's the right framework. It has everything that we need to sort of help become catalysts. I might say a word to someone, or somebody might say a word to me, or do certain things, or show me certain ways. Because when we first came to Canada, we didn't have this, right? Everybody was on survival mode. Our parents came here on survival mode. So a lot of us found things on our own. There wasn't any sort of connectivity. There wasn't exposure. Now we have exposure in pretty much every business, every career that you can think of. So it's an amazing thing to have, and at the same time, it's a platform that I really believe in. I don't get involved as much as I should, but at the very least, I know that this is something that has to happen, that has to continue to happen. Kudos to those who were brave enough to get it started and keep it going the way it is going.
So talking about giving back to the community, what inspired you to become a mentor?
What inspired me to become a mentor, simply, it's mentors that brought me, assisted me to be where I am. Right? For the most part, they were outside of our community, right? I reached out to others because what I was interested in, for the most part, those in our community weren't doing those things, or were involved in those type of businesses I was interested in. So for me, I'm now doing something that I think may be unique or may be of interest to somebody else. So I think that's really boils down to why.
Last question, what advice would you give to young Eritreans looking for a mentorship or direction?
I would say build a network. We're having conversations with some young people, and some young men said, I want to do real estate and things like that. Our community is the base, but you have to make sure that you have connectivity to other communities, right? Be it school, university, college, or whatever you're taking. Don't hang out with just your clique. Make sure you get to meet others, other cultures, because that's the one thing. Once you step out, that's the community that we have outside, right? So you have to be able to, and honestly, most of us, when we graduated, like for me, all my friends were getting positions because somebody knew somebody who knew somebody. And my first position was because my professor said, hire this guy. That's it. It wasn't that I'm more talented or any of that aspect, but it's just somebody who was a mentor to me was the first person that got me a position after I graduated my master's. So the key thing is that this is very important. This is your base, and really utilize this space. But at the same time, if I were to introduce somebody to someone, it might not necessarily be another Eritrean, but I have access to somebody else that they might not have. So it's very powerful what's being done here, and it's not to be taken lightly, because this is what's actually needed.
Thank you so much. I'm done with my questions.
That's it.
For coming. I'll start with my question. Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Samuel Obai. I'm an entrepreneur and educator, I can say. I'm a content creator and an author. I do have some online stuff, and I do have a community that are interested on investment. So I'm on that sense.
So when did you join Eripmn, and what inspired you to get involved with Eripmn?
I have been joining to Eripmn. I have been joined to Eripmn in the past a year and a half. And the thing that inspires me to join Eripmn is because I believe I'm the result of my mentors. So mentors are like people that shows you a light, that gives you a tunnel to enlightenment. So I believe in mentorship, and mentors are the people that takes you from the darkness to the light. So that's why I joined to Eripmn.
Alright, and talking about mentors, what inspired you to become a mentor?
The thing that inspires me to become a mentor I know the struggle and the toughness of the progress. So since I went that road, I have to show up to my young community and to those who need help, especially the newcomers. So that's why it inspires me to become a mentor.
And last question is, what advice would you give to young Eritreans who are looking for mentorship or direction?
So the advice that I want to give to young Eritreans are they should be bold and they should show up. They might be intelligent and they might be competent, but here in Western, you should be bold and you should show up the work and you should show up the skill that you have. So that's my advice to young mentees.
And one more question. How do you hope Eripmn makes difference in Eritrean community? We have people that are wanting to.
Eripmn makes huge difference in our community by connecting mentors and mentees. There are people who want to serve our community, and there are people who need service, especially the newcomers. So Eripmn is a bridge between the mentors and the mentees. So it makes a big difference in our community. Very
much,
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
So that's good.
You guys should move down.
Let's go. I've never been told to sit at the front.
Everyone ready?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah.
When I say Injera.
Video hide wala lang.
Right.
Edit it. It's moving. Is this a video or a film? It's a video.
Say lo ka dito.
Jangan nilai.